You guys were at 20 students when I think you started with us. So
Yes,
where are you guys now?
130.
Woo, it's a lot of growth.
But if it's working for you, why wouldn't it work for me the same way?
Yeah.
I always say, if you don't ask, the answer's still no. So if you have a question or you're wondering, just ask. Don't make it work for you.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. So today I have the pleasure of speaking with Miss Paula Valdovinos. How are you, ma'am?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So Miss Paula is one of the owners at Auburn Martial Arts Center. And I would love to start off. I mean, you've had some pretty amazing results and achievements over the last 12 to 14 months. You guys were at 20 students when I think you started with us. So
Yes,
where are you guys now?
130.
Woo, it's a lot of growth. It's a lot of
Yeah.
growth for sure. So tell everybody where you're located, a little bit about your school. I'd love to just kind of dig into that background.
Okay. We're located in Auburn, Washington, and we have been in this location since November of a year ago, November. So just about a year and a half is when we opened this location. And we were closed because of COVID. That stopped us.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't want to keep paying the rents we were paying. And we didn't have the background or the knowledge to be able to do a video type thing yet. So
Zoom classes,
we just, we literally kept a few students. We cleared out our living room and we were training in our living room during that time. Yeah. So, so that's where we're located, in Auburn, Washington.
Yeah. And so how long have you been doing martial arts? Your husband, maybe just a little bit about that background.
Yeah. So my husband started training obviously before me. He is my sensei, and we got married in 1986 and moved over here to Washington from the Yakima. It's Eastern Washington side of Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So we were living there and then came over here and decided to do a martial arts studio, something that my husband always wanted to do. He was a brown belt when we got married and actually got permission to start teaching in my parents' basement. And so we started back then, and I started training with him then in 1986. So we've been doing this, he's probably been training 40 years at least, and then I'm getting close to that. But so that's how we started, and we came over here. We had no kids, and we started training in my parents' basement, then moved to a dance and music center, and then got our first location. And so when we got our first location, it was in the industrial area of Auburn, and they let us have a special permit to be able to do it in the industrial area. And then we gradually grew and took another space and then another space. And so we were running about 4,800 square feet. I mean, it really wasn't laid out well. So when I say 4,800 square feet, it wasn't a dream dojo.
Yeah.
And then we were up to 300 students around that time. And we signed papers for a new location that was, how it was back in the day, they would say location, location, location.
Yeah.
And so we did that and went on to the main drag, and it was balloon payments. And we signed our contract 3 days before 9/11 happened.
Oh, wow.
And we are a big, huge Boeing area here. And there's a big Boeing plant right here in Auburn. So we had a lot of Boeing students, and it just started going down and down and down and down. And we were in a new location, and we needed you back then, didn't know it. But were you born?
I was. I was, yes.
So we did that, and then had to downsize and downsize and downsize, and then I went out and did I did church ministry. I was a pastor, kids pastor, and I did that for about 7 years. And my husband and my son, they just kept doing the karate school, but without my involvement in it. And I don't mean to say this braggingly, but without my involvement, it went down to the 20 students that they had. So that took us down, and then it came, seasons in life, and I went through working in the church world and decided that I was going to step back out of that. And my husband and my son, they asked me to come back, and they said, would you please come and do what you do?
Yeah.
And so I did, and we were at around 20 students, and we were at a dance and music center, and then we got the opportunity to get in here, and I said to my husband, I go, it is not the same today as it was 20 years ago. Like, you still do the same, go out and get into the mall or do your local, I don't know, ours is called Good Old Days. You do those things, but that was not cutting it anymore. And so I was just praying, and I was going through Facebook, and I saw to join the 7-figure dojo but
secrets group.
The secrets group. So I joined that and started listening to everything that I could get from you on YouTube, on Facebook. I just dug into what you were doing, and then I called you guys. And when I called you, it was like, I couldn't afford the very first initial talk when we were talking. I couldn't afford it. And so we hung up, and then I was checking out another company as well. And then you guys called me back and said, hey, we have this special that we're offering. Would you be interested in that? And I'm like, yes. I really wanted to be part of a company that had the same values and beliefs and, the life skills that you teach. I just know you're teaching the same thing that I would teach. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And I wanted to be part of that. And so when you guys invited us, I was like, yes, I don't care. I was working a second job. When we signed with you, my husband, we had a security company too.
Right.
And
tell me about that.
Yeah. And then he had his first hip surgery like 2 days before we signed with you. Yeah. Well, in hindsight, I probably would have waited a minute because you guys, everything started working so well. The Facebook ads just came through. I think my cost per lead was like down to $3 and some cents.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It was pretty crazy launching. Yeah. And so that was really awesome. And then we just started teaching and doing everything that you were telling us that we needed to do.
And that was one of the things that our success coach team, when they're working, they're like, she does everything the exact same way that we're doing it. And how important do you think that is to try to replicate results of somebody else as opposed to trying to tweak the recipe? Like, do you think that's helped you guys a lot?
Absolutely. And like I said, I've been in kids ministry for years. And so I would buy curriculum from another company, and then I would go and use their curriculum. So I was very much used to doing what was laid out for me. And I'm like, why would I want to reinvent the wheel? You can tweak it to put your name on it and whatnot. But if it's working for you, why wouldn't it work for me the same way? So So besides getting all the new leads and all that, like, what do you think was one really big shift for you guys? Was it just the massive amount of enrollments that were coming in? Like, walk us back, 12, 14 months ago when everything was kicking off. Well, it was that. It was a lot of the leads, but it was my mindset. Our mindset shifted. And when we were doing martial arts back, 20 years ago, it was the longer your program, the cheaper your program. And that's how you sold it. So you tried to sell somebody, sign up for the 12-month program because, it's going to save you money. So that was a selling technique that was done back then. And then when I met you and you said, no, you need to sell your 6-month program, because I had a 6, and you said do 4 or 6. And we were already doing a 6, so I stayed with 6, and we're doing that, and was at the higher price, And when we went with you, most of our students were paying $110 a month, and then it went clear up to, I believe it was like $147 a month is what the 6-month program went up to. And it was just a mindset shift of doing that. And my 12-month program is a little bit more than that. And and then you have to, everybody starts at the 6-month program. I don't have to offer anything else. That was what you were saying to do. So we did that, and it's been really amazing. Now we're up, we had raised the rate to $157. So that's our 6-month program right now.
Yeah. And I remember you had, I think it was at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, you hit your first like 20K month.
January.
Yeah.
And it hasn't gone down. It's been that way. But you also challenged us to not let it go down. And
right.
So I'm like, okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to do a seminar. We're going to do a parents' night out. You know, we're going to really sell our equipment. Every kid, we spar, and we always have. So it was like something that we couldn't backtrack on in the program. Like when you go to the black belt leadership programs that you would sell, our plus is we teach all the weapons. So that's our plus, and it doesn't include sparring. Everybody does sparring every other week. We spar. So selling those and pushing that and making a bundle, that was all super important to the revenue to be able to keep it up. And January was a test month. So come February, I don't have, the extra, $3,000 that I got from test fees. So I had to make that up some other way, pay in full, whatever I could do to get that coming up, that revenue. So, and we've continued to do the same.
Yeah, it's been incredible watching you guys do that. And what do you think is a personal characteristic, maybe that you and your husband both shared, that you feel has led to your success? Because other people are given the same recipe, but sometimes they don't cook or bake the cake the same way. So what is it for you guys that you feel has allowed you to be successful? And also your other son, who's down in Texas, right? He came inside the program, and he's been successessful as well. So like, what do you think that Valdivino's like characteristic is that you guys obviously possess that's helping you be successful?
I guess I would just say a love for martial arts and a love for people. My son, I was a kids pastor, and then my son became a kids pastor. My husband has had a pastor's heart for our entire marriage, and so just wanting to change people's lives, both through martial arts and just through the characteristics that we teach, the values that we teach. And I think it just makes it more of that family unit when we're here. So I guess that's what I would have to say might be that secret sauce, is that you do.
Just really caring about the overall results of the students and everything.
Absolutely.
What about on the business side? If somebody's like really trying to ramp up their school, maybe they're already part of Seven Figure Dojo, maybe they're not, but they're trying to ramp up their school and the revenue and all those different things. What do you think is one thing that they should start focusing on that maybe they haven't? Maybe you made this shift, you started focusing on it, and what we focus on is what we get, right? So what do you think that might be?
One of the things that we were intentional about was doing parent night out and increasing that revenue by doing that. And I mean, that could be anywhere from $700 to $1,000. I've done as much as $1,200 increase because of doing a parent night out. And I have a very small dojo, so I have if I think it's something that I know kids are going to really love, like Nerf Wars is a sellout every time. And so I would do 2 days of the Nerf Wars. I do a Friday night, and then I do a Saturday morning. And we usually would sell out for both of those. So that was a higher revenue as well. But in working together, like my husband and I always tell people, if they come to us and ask us, we want to start a dojo, what should we do? And, if they're married, it's like, well, is your spouse going to be involved in this? And if not, I wouldn't do it, because we've seen people over the years where their spouse wasn't involved. Their school was always struggling. It never went anywhere. And we didn't want to be that way. So I always came behind my husband and said, okay, let's make this work, and we need students. We need to, do X, Y, and Z. I've always been I can do some graphic arts. I've always been that paper pusher kind of, getting
operator,
getting everything out there. And if you don't have somebody like that on your team, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a spouse, but if you don't have somebody like that on your team, then you're going to have to get somebody that you could, train that way. When we got so far along, I think we might have been about at 60 students, and it was still that whirlwind, like, 20 students a month coming in. I mean, signing up, not just coming in, because you got way more coming in, and then you got to sign everybody up. And in that, we hired a front desk person for us, and she happened to be somebody that I had worked with in kids ministries, and we just just click really well together. And I was like, okay, she's the person that I need to ask to come in and see if she would work with me. And the answer was yes. And she's been here ever since. And she's gotten more hours doing more for us. And she trains as well. And so just having that team around you, I think really makes a huge difference. And number one thing is to have 7FD. So.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah. I definitely, I have seen some schools work with only one partner involved, but the other partner has to be that cheerleader, and they still need an operator. So that person's like, maybe they have their own professional career and they just physically can't be there. Like they still need somebody who's going to run the day to day, especially if the other person's the visionary. So it kind of sounds like with Mr. Valdivinas that he's more of the visionary, he's the sensei, all that, but you're more of the day-to-day operator, making sure that all the pieces are in place and that they're falling in place and being focused on the details. So, I mean, besides having a team, obviously having 7FD in your corner, that type of thing. What do you think has really led you to this growth of the constant 20K months? Do you think it's like just the accountability from 7FD, like we're having contests and things like that? Or do you think it's some like another shift? Because this is kind of like a new era for you guys just as a business. So any thoughts around that?
I would say that, I am a very competitive person, so throwing a challenge out in front of me is probably one way to make me do something. But I like if I was a student actually training on the floor, I would want those red stripes, those black stripes. I would want the green. I'd want to get all of it. So that's kind of how I am. So a challenge is always helpful. But in doing that, if that challenge went away tomorrow, I would still have to play that in my head that I need to have certain elements in order to make my revenue come in, which is my merchandise sales and stuff. Any parent night out that we're going to do, a seminar. I'm doing a women's self-defense in May, a parent night out, and one other seminar. I haven't figured out what I'm doing, but I'm going to do 3 in May. And for the very first time, I did the parent night out in my test month, and it was sold out. And I never used to do that. So, but just all those things would be, I would just have to focus and make myself do that, even if you didn't have the challenge. But that's what I appreciate from you guys. You're giving me tools. And if I didn't have you in my life at whatever, then I would want to continue doing those same tools.
Yeah. Well, what kind of experience, just for somebody who's looking from the outside in? I mean, you've been with us for quite a while now. So what would you say about your experience inside of 7FD, interacting with the team, all the things that we're doing on a regular basis? Just share with people just whatever that experience has been like for you.
It's been amazing. I was involved with another company and prior to coming to you, and that other company was a company that every time I talked to somebody on the phone, they were like this cheerleader, like, rah, you can do it, and so it was a lot of you can do it, but I didn't feel like I got the help I needed. And you guys are always positive and kind and treat people wonderfully. But I feel like it's real, and I feel like I can say, hey, this is what's happening with me. What's your experience? What can you tell me? How do you think we can, get past that? And I can ask you guys that, and it's real, and you'll talk me through it. You're available, whereas I didn't feel like the other team was very available. And I'd much rather talk on the phone or like in a Zoom than to just constantly be texting or DMing back and forth. And you guys give that opportunity as well. You can set an appointment. We can chat through something if you're worried about something or you need help with something. And that's been my experience with you guys, just like on it.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's awesome. Good insight from that. So, you're crushing it, have added on, a ton of students, like over 100 students in the last year. So, what's next for you guys? Like, what are you trying to set your eyes on, and what's the future for you guys?
This dojo will probably, I mean, we don't have very much room left. It'll probably max out at like 180 to 200. There is a dance and music center next door to me. I am going to talk to the owner and see if, you know, they are coming or going to move or anything. If, or when they do, could you please consider us? And if that's not going to happen, then we're going to end up looking for a larger location, definitely.
Mhm.
But this is where we're at is an incredible drive-by, just awesome. So
Good location. Yeah.
It's a good
Yeah, that's
location.
awesome. Well, last question here. If somebody's sitting on the fence, they're like, this interview was great. It's so awesome on the inside of 7FD. What would you say to that person who might be sitting there going, I don't know, should I do it now? Should I not? What would you say to them?
Absolutely do it. Absolutely do it. And you know what? You guys were so helpful to me. And I don't think like you don't have to be in a box. You know what I'm saying? You guys think outside the box. And if I needed something, I always say, if you don't ask, the answer's still no. So if you have a question or you're wondering, just ask. They'll make it work for you.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Ms. Paula. Well, thank you very much for being here. You are one of our star clients here at 7FD. We appreciate you very much. All right.
Back at you.